What's up, everybody? Noah Kids back here for another interview with Max McGuire. I just had him on not too long ago for a fantastic little film, which did fantastically well. Didn't My Christmas Guide do 1.09?
Yeah. It was one of the top watched Hallmark movies and mysteries, Christmas movies. It got replayed on Christmas Eve on the main channel Hallmark as well. And it was one of the highest rated movies on Hallmark this year.
I can't believe all the love that film got. We don't get a whole lot of blind movies.
Although this year there was 2 on Hallmark, so there you go.
2, and I was like, well, how are they going to see this film? Just because they were very different, and with the 2 different stories, one major star in Amber Marshall, who they protect, her fans protect her so much, unlike any other fans. And they were just so open to it. They love that movie. I can't tell you how many friends at work said, "Did you see that movie?" I said, "Of course I saw the movie." And they said they cried. They went to see about adopting a dog right afterwards, and they didn't quite know what that movie was going to be because we got one earlier, and they were just like, is this going to be the same story over again? I said, I promise you, just go and watch it. It's the better of the 2.
Listen, those are big shoes to fill. Sarah Drew's a wonderful actor. They had another Canadian in that one too, Eric McCormick, who's a god in our country as well. And so Amber is right to be protected by her fans. She is awesome. She is exactly who she is on screen, and even sweeter. The dog deserves protection. Ben deserves. They all did good. They made my job, which was very hard on location in Newfoundland. They made it very easy to work with creatively. So I'm grateful to have good people around me. And as for the fans, I suspect they were stuffing the ballot box on IMDb to jack up that rating because she does have like a 1 million man army that watches whatever she does. And so you're right, though. They are very protective. And I got more than a few emails asking me why it wasn't her co-star from the series, as if they're only ever supposed to act together. But she warned me about that. And she goes, it's just because they care.
Well, I spoke to a co-star. She worked with her for 7 years, Cindy Busby.
Oh, Cindy is a pal of mine too.
And I had to ask her, I'm like, so are you surprised how protective the Heartland fans are? And she says, no. They keep asking me. They said the Hallmark fans and the Heartland fans are so tied together because they're so tight-knit on that story. They love their stars, and they're just protective of everything. Yeah. So to have her finally come in, she was so happy to see the love, but also the protection for their lead star, as well as her.
Definitely. Cindy has carved a great career after that series, and I've still yet to work with her on screen. I've only ever socialized with her in Vancouver.
She is a sweetheart. She's just like she is on screen. I haven't met her in person, just one interview, but man, she's a sweetheart, and I can't wait to see her next year at Christmas Con.
Amazing.
So you have a new film coming out in 2 weeks I'm very excited about.
Yes, Romance with a Twist, formerly known as Love in the Air. Very fun, very challenging, very different.
What is different from this one than any other film you've done? And were you aware of the aerialist world before this film?
I'd only ever really seen it. First of all, aerial is a acrobatic performance dance on 20 or 30 foot silks. And so I had heard about it, but I didn't really know anything about it. And when I got a script that said aerial, 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 aerial on every second page, I was like, oh my. So I hit the internet. Luckily, the writer had done some training herself and did some research, and she wrote stuff that made sense for where our actress would be. And then we had to design a whole final act. So what makes this movie different is the aerial aspect. It is every time you lift an actor 4 feet off the ground, it's a stunt. And so we had to have a combination of doubles, but our stars also had some experience. And so they were able to do many of their own tricks. And sometimes the stunt people just demonstrated what they were going to do. And then we lit with our stunt people, and then we shot with the reel so that we don't wear them out. I mean, an average professional only does 7 minutes on the silks, whereas we can film for 12 hours a day. And so you can burn out your forearms. So to answer your first question, what made it different was the fear the fear of hurting people, the fear of not representing silks as well as we should, which I think we did an awesome job. Our star Jocelyn Houdon trained on her own for months beforehand, and she does many or all of her own stunts in the movie, although we did have a backup person for a few shots. And Olivier, who had been a circus performer years ago, but not on silk, so it wasn't his discipline, but he quickly learned a few moves to make sure that he could look official. And so what makes it different is it's an acrobatic love story. I've never done that. I don't think I've ever seen it. I've seen singing, I've seen dancing, but I haven't seen two people kiss 20 feet in the air for the finale. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just, no spoilers.
Oh, sure. We got the exclusive on this channel. No.
That's what I heard.
But you have worked with one of these stars before, and Olivier was in a fantastic film directed by you, Midnight at the Magnolia. Was he your first choice as the love interest, or did you have others?
No, because I knew of his circus past, I brought him up to our executives day one, and they said, look into it, and he was available. He was traveling in France when the offer came in. He goes, Max, I've been eating cheese and drinking wine. How much acrobatics do I have to do? I was like, whatever you're comfortable doing, man. And he came home and learned a few tricks on the spot. That's how much of a athlete he was. And so, yeah, no, it's funny. We had a conversation, me, him, and Natalie Hall, while filming Midnight at the Magnolia, because at that point he was just kind of starting his acting career. And he's like, how do I get to the top of the call sheet? I said, you're a good-looking guy. You got charisma and you can act. I said, just time. And then sure enough, 3 years later, he's leading these movies. I'd worked with him twice, so I actually made him the other love interest in a movie called Christmas at Maple Creek with Jake Epstein and Jenny Ross. And he was our third star, the other man. And so he went from down the line to other man to star, all in a very short period of time, considering he had a previous career with the circus.
Mm-hmm. So were you ever going to be an aerialist, or did you try on set? Were you scared? Because I know I would be.
I was never going to be an aerialist. However, I did have to go try and put myself upside down and climb and touch the ceiling and do all the things we told our crew they weren't allowed to do, as they shook their head when I did it.
And what did your wife think? Because I could only imagine if she saw you up there, would she say, not me?
My wife is actually a previous athlete, so I'm sure she would be right up there too. She was a Canadian karate champ when she was 13 years old, so she can kick my butt.
We have all had that, man. But with the aerialists,
my dog's coming back in. Anyhow, don't mind my pup.
With the aerialists, did you have a stuntman on there to like show them everything firsthand, or was it a stunt coordinator? Yeah.
So we had a coordinator, and we had doubles that would demonstrate the moves and make sure it's safe. As I mentioned, Jocelyn had done some training before, so she was sending videos back and forth with us and the stunt people so that we could tailor the moves that we were going to use to stuff that she had practiced. Mm-hmm. And then they showed her a thing or two, and then she actually had her trainer in Toronto come to town to do the finale as a double for Olivier. Because though she had been training, Olivier didn't learn all the crazy flips and everything else. So if you freeze frame, you'll be able to see it, but in motion, you'd never be able to tell who was who.
Was it hard to shoot those scenes with all the scenes you've ever done? With the dog and the cooking, what was harder? This or the cooking scenes where it had to look pristine, where this, I'm sure there's some sweeping shots and some great camera work that was hard to do.
So the trick with this is it's kind of like shooting a concert. You just know you work your way from your close-ups back or from your wides in. Like, you need your connection between them, your tights. You want dynamic side angles with your twinkle lights from the point of view of your friends watching on the side. And then you want your wide to see the scope, and then you want your behind the audience head so you can see the whole stage and everything. And so it's about covering it to make it look grand. And I had done some concert movies, so I knew the general approach. We work. The hardest part is doing this in 14 days and 12-hour days. Like we only have, to get technical, people go into double time, overtime, triple time, and it can get really costly on a 14-day movie to do everything you want to do. So you have to really be precise with your choices and make sure you're front loading your necessities as opposed to your wants. And so you get your necessities, then you chase your wants.
And with Jocelyn, was she your first pick, or did you have other actresses?
Jocelyn was the only pick for this movie, being that she was training for this and talked to the executive. She was on the film before I was. And so I think they all tacitly approved me. She had done a movie in town a year or two ago, one of the ice hotels.
Oh yeah,
so
she worked cold outside, I think.
Yeah, and so she knew the team, and then her and I met, and we got along quickly. And she insisted on meeting Olivier on the Silks at a private studio just to see what he was capable of. And lucky she wasn't disappointed. And no, we had a lot of fun. She's a great energy. She is what do I call her? Like a rabid squirrel, where she's just like running off. She would climb up and down those ropes all day if she was allowed. So,
and I'm sure that her phenomenal husband was scared to death.
Jake came to town. He brought their puppy. We got to have dinner together, all of us.
Oh, they love their dog, man. They love their dog like no other.
Listen, no, you're just talking about your dog. I got mine. This is our people, right? And their dog is a shy doodle like my doodle. So they actually got to meet. They brought him by.
And did they get along pretty well?
They ignored each other like two introverts.
Yep. Just like my dog with any other living thing besides me.
We just adopted this guy. I think I showed you. We just adopted this guy from Barbados. This is Reggie.
Hey, Reggie. How you doing?
He's a good guy. Oh, thank you.
And when are you going to be on screen?
He's more likely to be on screen than Lenny. Lenny's a little bit camera shy and doesn't like people or the sound of metal clanging, whereas this guy seems to like everything and everyone. So he's more liable to make it on a camera than Leonard is. Yeah.
And was it Lenny who was doing a bit of scouting?
Yes.
I think he loves the snow. I'm guessing
he is obsessed with the snow, loves to chase snowballs and dive and roll in the snow and have fun. And today he was on a private scouting mission for my next Christmas movie that's going to shoot in 3 weeks.
My dog's the exact opposite. He goes outside, and it is the most hilarious thing. He walks out there, and one paw's like this, and then he goes like that. One paw at a time, and he says, This was his first snow, and it was only an inch. he thought it was the worst thing in the world.
You know what? He's new to it. When he realizes you can roll that up into a snowball and chase him like a ball, he might end up loving
it. We've tried that, and he doesn't want anything
to do
with it.
Not yet.
Give him another 2 or 3 snows. We have another snow coming, which I'm not happy
about.
Where
are you located again?
I'm in Northeast Ohio.
Okay, yeah. So you're a Northeastern. You get those storms like we do too.
Yeah. Thankfully, we didn't get the Buffalo storm with the 1 to 3 feet. That was ridiculous.
Yeah,
but
we got a foot last weekend, so I was shoveling.
So how was this film for you? What was it like to go from a cooking film to this, and how did you look at this film as to other films?
This was different because it was a summer rom-com, not Christmas, so we didn't have to worry about Christmas decorations in every frame, but you still want to make sure every frame is beautiful. I got to shoot in the prime of summer in my city in beautiful locations. The warehouse, my production designer, turned into a warm, inviting, awesome practice studio. The final stage is very cool design. Every set was tailor-made for the movie. It was beautiful. So it's one of my favorite movies to make, actually. I got to work with my old friend, cinematographer Christian Bieltz, who shot Christmas by Design, who shot Noel Next Door, who shot 5, 6, 7 of my movies, and we've been working together since 1999. So he comes and stays with me and my wife for the summer when we film, and it's like summer camp. We biked to work every morning at sunrise, and we biked home at sunset along the river. It was, and every day we'd bike to go get a coffee and go back after lunch, refresh like we were just going to work for the first time that morning. It was one of my favorite experiences. And I think it shows in the movie. I think everybody had a great time. And Jocelyn and Olivier set the tone with the cast and the crew. And they're acrobatic, like they blew me away with what they were capable of doing and what we were able to do in 14 days. I mean, I've just never seen something so physical in a Hallmark movie.
Now, you have quite the cast in this film.
We do.
Who was the hardest person to cast?
Nobody. I mean, I think the tapes always reveal themselves. I mean, I was lucky to have Darren Baker play the stepdad. He's from a series called Painkiller that went crazy on Netflix, and he's done so much in Canada. He's like, listen, Max, you got anything like this for me again, I'll come down to Ottawa. And he traveled on his own dime to be in this movie. Our friend who was in our wedding, Candace Lidstone, plays Gabby, Olivier's sister, and she's an actor, but I got to be careful not to play favorites with friends.
Yeah.
And then the audition won over everybody, so I didn't have to play favorites, and so she got to be the highest on a call she's ever been, which was number 3, and she's like the co-star of the movie. And so, and then for secondary roles like Tanya Clark, who plays Jocelyn's mom, I've done a half dozen movies with her. She's friends with the company, and she basically says, Max, whatever you guys got going, let me know. And so,
what about Jamie Champagne?
Oh, Jamie, yeah, I did a couple movies with him now. And so he was in Most Colorful Christmas, and he was also in Abducted on Prom Night, a thriller I did. He's great. He's fun. He brings great energy. He's great at improv. He'll change up a line, a joke, or go hard or go soft whatever you want. No, you're right. So we did have a pretty stacked cast that really fit the characters of the movie.
And I don't think you've ever done a film with Uma, right?
No, Uma, yeah. So she's a writer from New York. She actually flew herself up to come visit set and wanted to see what it was like. And she was an actress as well in New York, so I think she thought it was a great time seeing it come to life.
What is the one thing that you can say with no spoilers that everyone is going to love about this film? Why is this one so special to you? And try to sell it to us.
What the film builds up to in their finale is absolutely unique to actors, not only in a Hallmark movie, but had they done this in a $20 million Netflix movie, you'd be impressed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that is something that will be tweetable moments, and also just show these guys' versatility and skill to act while doing such physical things is hard. I mean, this is why we shut down roads on driving scenes, because while you're trying to also be a character and think about your character and then do physical things, throw in acrobatics that you learn that day. And it's cool.
And was there any issues with the silk? Did something not go right every once in a while? Just because those are things you can't really
listen. I mean, nothing went wrong with the physical silk, but I mean, the reason we do takes and cut is to make sure that they're doing the best version. Like, I remember there was a flip they had to do synchronized, and they were off by a half second, so we just spliced it in the middle of the frame and retimed them in post. But that's human. Like, we're talking microsecond releases and then a chain reaction making it different. So no, it all went honestly as well as it could. And the reason I think it did is I'd just come back from my honeymoon, and I got to panic about the silks for 3 extra weeks before we officially started. So I was looking into it, talking to people, procuring the silks, like right down to the last week before we started shooting, getting different colors to see what they look like in person, and then ultimately choosing the best color for what would go in the room, and then try to figure out how to make sense of these moves, because an actor is going to be like, okay, yeah, I trained, but what are we doing? Mm-hmm. What's the choreography? What's the timing? How long are we doing this for? Like, and then, it's a 3-minute routine, but you got to do it 27 times. So it's an hour and a half straight. Luckily, as you know, we cut and roll, and every time you change the camera position, you got a half-hour relight. So they got some downtime. But then we'd send the doubles up to go do it so that we could track the camera, find out what they're going to do, and pre-visualize it. And then we had to kind of just trust our instincts and our skills and go with it.
they had a lot of downtime, but I know the last time that we talked, you try to do as much as you can on set with the time you have. You will move all the lights, you will do anything just to get one more shot in there. And was it the same with this movie?
So this one was different because I had a 10,000 square foot warehouse where that's their practice studio. And the problem is in film, you do a 12-hour day plus an hour lunch, but every day you can only start 12 hours after you start. So you're moving the start line every day. And the problem with that is if you start at 7 a.m. on Monday, you're going to be starting at like noon on Friday, and it gets dark at 7. But I needed all 12 hours of daylight. And so I was rushing to be done an hour early every day so that we could hold the call and hold our 7:30 a.m. call, which is why we were able to bike to work at sunrise and bike home at sunset, because I needed daylight. Whereas if I had to create daylight in that giant warehouse, not just on a single shot like you or I are in right now, where we blast light from one side and then fill it in, we would have had to create it in like, we didn't have the lighting power to do that. And so I was rushing around doing everything I could to help every department, even if they didn't want the help. And sometimes they don't, because they're professionals. They're like, listen, this is what you're paying me for. But I'm like, guys, this is existential to the movie. And so every 5 minutes matters to me. And they got it. And we got us all paddling in the same direction.
So you do have this film out in 2 weeks. But one thing we have not spoken anything about is Abducted on Prom Night.
Okay.
That came out last year.
Yes.
What was this film about, and how was this experience?
It was insane. First of all, thrillers in 14 days, like the opening stunt is a girl getting locked in an SUV, and then as it's speeding away, rolling out. I mean, those stunts can take hours on a normal movie, let alone a TV movie where you got to do 8 pages of dialogue and then that stunt. And so I happened to get like a nasty bout of RSV. If had it been COVID, they would have sent me home. But because it was RSV, they're like, okay, you're good to work. And I had 102 fever. I was in a snowsuit, shivering while directing from a tent alone, so I didn't infect anybody. It was the hardest physical experience of my life on a film set. And then the movie itself was also insane. I mean, it's 5 kids locked in a limo, and everyone's like, oh, it's all one location. I'm like, how do you shoot in a limo and keep it visually interesting? So we did it in a studio and then opened up windows and trunks to get camera positions, but lighting in there, all these things, a prom, a warehouse, and I had to come up with a chart. Okay, the limo's moving in this scene. Okay, and then we have to stop it on the side of a highway. Then we got to pick up the scene there. And scenes were shot in like 3 pieces: in studio, on the road where they begin, then drive-bys with drones and cars to keep it moving. It was like really technically challenging for the 14 days we normally get.
So this was the hardest thing you've ever had to do film-wise?
Because I was sick. But if you recall, the year before, there was a movie called Ice Road Killer, and that was an 18-wheeler on a closed highway in -40 overnight filming. And so we had 5 days where we had to stop every half hour and go inside just so we didn't like lose toes. Like, it was my crew we couldn't handle it. The freeze was going through your boots. We were wrapping feet in foil to hold in heat. Like, it was physically dangerous. And then half the movie took place outside, so there was no reprieve.
No.
And then you got an 18-wheeler with a stunt driver, and then your actors in a sedan driving side to side. I was driving the camera car with my director of photography with camera strapped. So 3 of us going down closed highways back and forth, trying to get those shots, and hoping the weather matches the next day when you're supposed to film the next part. And so that was crazy too. Those were the 2 hardest ones. And it prepared me for this romance with a twist because of getting ahead of the planning, even though you're not even officially on the clock and being paid. Just, a penny of preparation beats a pound of whatever the hell the saying is.
Now, what about your own film called Foreverland? Was this one? This was one of your early films.
It was my first professional movie.
So what was the experience like, and how much did you learn from that one film that you carry over to each film? Where you learn something new every single time, yes, but how much did you learn from that film alone?
The most. I mean, I came from a $6,000 movie with 5 people at my family cottage before that. And then I went to a $3 million movie with Oscar nominees and 22 days. And my assistant director, Carl Mason, at the time, he warned me. He goes, Max, you and I are going to be in a regular van zipping ahead to the location with the cast, and they're still going to be loading the trucks at the previous location. So he goes, you're not going to be moving the same way you do. So you got to be ready to compromise or work faster. And he was absolutely right. And I can say this honestly now, I wasn't ready to jump to that scale of movie. I'm lucky my script that I wrote with my friend Sean Riopel was worth it to the actors, but I didn't have the technical know-how how to maximize that project. However, it's full of heart. It's a great story, great actors that elevated the material. I wish I made these 30 movies before I made that movie, because now I'd be on a damn Oscar stage this year. No, I'm kidding. That's arrogant. But honestly, what I could have brought to that technically, had I known then what I know now, I think it'd be a different movie.
Is writing, acting, or directing harder in your eyes? Since you have written, and of course you have made tons of films, but what is the hardest aspect in the film world? Is it a director, a writer, or is it to...
I'm not going to give you a full answer. I'm going to say writing something really good is the hardest. Writing itself is hard. Writing something good is extremely hard. Directing gets infinitely easier when you have a great script to work off of, and great actors and a great team and great logistics. However, without any one of those elements, directing's hard and maybe harder. And then acting is only as good as the material. And so if the meat isn't on the bones, it's really hard to turn something bad into something good. You can make it passable. You can do your best. As Jim Carrey said, there's no shame in being the best thing in a bad project. Yep. However, you can't change the whole movie because you don't have your hands on every pot. And so I think directing with less support, i.e. script, actors, or locations, is probably the hardest. But I also think it's really hard to turn lemons into lemonade when you're an actor.
And my final question for this interview is, do you have anything coming up that you can tease a little bit? We know you have a Christmas film, but is there another thriller that you are going to be doing soon? Or
I'm in talks with some companies to do a thriller. But I also am in talks with myself and a friend to do a version of one of my own movies. A short version as a proof of concept, but something kind of fun and very thrilling. Might involve hunting if you look at my website.
Well, thank you so much, man. It's always so much fun. And of course, we love dogs on this channel, so we love to see him. We love to see him.
This is my boy, Reggie. Hi, everybody.
Thank you guys for watching this video. Watch Romance with the Twist on Saturday, January 27th at 8 p.m. on the Hallmark Channel, and record it. It is going to be a great film. I know this guy makes phenomenal films. He has not made a bad one, and I've seen the good majority of all of them, but definitely check it out, and it is going to be a fantastic time. Like and subscribe if you're new, so we can get more interviews, and I can talk to Max again once he has another film come out down the line in 2024, I'm sure. But thank you guys for watching this video, and I will see all of you guys next time.
Everyone.